Hi and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be looking at how you think they feel versus how they actually feel about you and the connection. There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Hematite, along with these cards. Group 2 is the Amethyst, along with these cards. And group 3 is the green Calcite, along with these cards. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps for each group in the description box of the video if you would like to jump ahead, which I do recommend using so that you can skip over me shuffling cards in between groups to clear the energy of the group I've just read for and tap into the energy of the group I'm about to read for. So again, I will give you a minute. Please use the timestamps and we'll get into your reading. Hi, Group 1. You chose the Hematite, along with these cards, which I'll start with to get kind of a feel for how you think they feel about you and what's going on right now in the connection versus how they are actually feeling about things. So we have letter, sun, lady, magnetism of Eros, Basset, clarity, spirit path of the East, breakthrough, inner vision, truth, Two of Wands, Seven of Swords, Two of Pentacles, and Ten of Swords. So this definitely looks like you think that this person feels better in the silence, that this is somebody who maybe was offering themselves to you before they were fully healed from another situation, before they were fully ready. The intensity of the connection maybe being a little too much for them. causing them to be very overwhelmed, to need to pull back, to need to pull away, highlighting some unhealed wounds, some things that were triggered by your dynamic, by what was really stirring inside of them. There's a sense here of feeling that this person is more content in this space of distance, feeling that with the Seven of Swords, that they are more inclined to just pull back their energy, are only interested in just offering you the bare minimum, just this single hand reached out, just a little something, a sense of the space and the distance between you that has been the case or that has developed. Feelings on your part maybe that this is the way that they like things, this is the way that they wanted things to be, this is where they are wanting the connection and the dynamic to remain in the long term. There's a sense here of being very remote from one another energetically at this point in time, and kind of you left with having to really dig into your intuition, to really feel into this, left to just kind of maybe assume the worst, or being really challenged at this point in time, not to step into that fear-based thinking, that worst case scenario thinking, the situation between the both of you really being that challenge to take that higher perspective, to operate from a space of compassion, to recognize that whatever this person is demonstrating to you at this point in time, it is really reflective of something that has been triggered within them, some kind of wound that has come up to the surface. And that, this feeling of that, maybe this was kind of their intention the whole time, was to just kind of get you to really open up your heart to them, open up your soul to them on some level. Kind of this energy of enticement, kind of this trinket, or this feeling of, sort of luring you into that space of vulnerability, only to, really close off, to shut themselves off, almost like a sense of kind of baiting you in order to, really snap that trap shut. A sense of, maybe this person, feeling that this person, was almost kind of deliberate or wanting to wound you in some way because of things that might have occurred between the two of you earlier within this dynamic, or just that idea of hurt people, a sense of this being somebody who almost really seeks out kind of the purity and the light in others in order to really bring that to the surface, with sort of the intention ultimately of attempting to sort of squash that, diminish that, or extinguish that in some form or fashion. And then again, sort of that assumption, feeling that might have been some intent on this person's part, and the way that might be how you're interpreting the situation, sort of left in this confusion of things going really well, and then all of a sudden to have this person with the Seven of Swords just kind of pull back, just kind of withdraw themselves. Again, this idea of giving something only to really take it back again. And kind of what that is bringing up in terms of, that fear-based programming, some kind of paranoia, or even a sense that might have occurred within you of something lacking in you, not being good enough, or being somebody who, maybe has a history of people not appreciating what you have to give in love, people who are really kind of threatened by your light, by the light of love that you have to give. Maybe you have encountered other people in the past who, operating from that very wounded place, sort of the more that you've allowed them into your heart, and that purity that has been really experienced, that has really been shown to people, and sort of a habit or pattern of people that you may have dealt with romantically prior to this person that, did demonstrate those kind of behaviors, sort of trying to coax you to open up your heart, open up that shell so that pearl within could be accessed, in order to be tampered with or in some way sullied by people who are operating extremely out of a place of wounding and a place of distortion. Kind of that idea of your light irritating other people's demons. And so it might be kind of a natural assumption to assume that what is happening with this person is just another example of that, just another repetition of that same cycle that you may have been really trying to break or had become aware of. Prior to your dealings with this person, it may have been something you were trying to show up differently in romantic connections, and so really stepping out onto a ledge to express yourself, to take that chance, to move through the fear into a place of really following your heart, only to have whatever has occurred really make you question that, question your own intuition, question if, were you leaping before you were looking. The challenge then being with that to, keep your heart open, to remain in that, to remain steadfast, to not allow sort of the fear and woundings of others to extinguish that light within you, to really recognize any kind of fear-based programmings of not being good enough, or being deceived or tricked by another person who was almost seeking the antithesis of love, by kind of interacting with a loving vibration only to try and create some dissonance in that situation, somebody who kind of perpetuates anti-love, so to speak. And so these kind of conclusions or assumptions that you may have been kind of drawn to, what may have really been triggered or stirred up within you through this interaction, it feels very much the opposite of what is truly going on within this person. They see you as a very divine and pure, radiant example of love as they always imagined that it could be. There's a lot of attraction here, a lot of magnetism at the soul level in the way the two of you interact in this energy. It's almost like being drawn together, this energy of magnets. It kind of renders free will obsolete, and yet at the same time, not in a way which feels threatening. This could feel very overwhelming to this person, to be so pulled toward another person, so pulled into another person's orbit. The task being then to allow themselves to surrender to that, to really follow their own intuition, to recognize some things that have been triggered within them, unhealed wounds that this is bringing up, maybe a little bit of hesitancy to open up further, or just keeping themselves at arm's length, not allowing themselves to fall too deeply into this situation. That what has happened between the two of you, and kind of this sense of this person also reflecting and being aware on some level of maybe with letter things that were said, some kind of a communication, some kind of an interaction, and the sense that that left you with, as they have had this ability, with this idea of clarity here, kind of in hindsight, as that dust has settled, as they have been able to then self-reflect and to feel that sort of distance or that separation that is then ensued, that disruption of this magnetism that the two of you shared, and somebody who's kind of going into that place of introspection and recognizing this being a very necessary process in order to really create a mirror for them to see these wounds, see these blocks, see this hesitation, to recognize and appreciate the gift of love that has presented itself to them in a very direct, very true manner, something that's not contrived, but again with that idea of magnetism, almost something of a divine orchestration, something to where the steps and the roads the two of you have taken in your lives have really kind of narrowed that path toward each other, that you have arrived at this crossroads of meeting one another at a very precise juncture in both of your lives. This could be very overwhelming to them, very overwhelming to you. And it feels like in this dynamic, you might have been the one to kind of take that lead, to step forth, to set that example of opening up to that, going with that, following that intuition, as opposed to really focusing on sort of the material circumstances between the both of you, or trying really to sort of move beyond any triggers or wounds from love in the past, to really open yourself up, accepting that opportunity, receiving that gift, answering answering that call for a breakthrough in what you have experienced in love in the past, the ways in which you've shown up in love in the past, recognizing fears that have come up within you and kicking those walls down to move closer into this connection. The example of that this is provided for this person, again, in hindsight, it's really shining a light. It's providing a mirror on some wounds within them, some things that are needing to be cleared, and cleared through a process of surrender, through allowing themselves to be washed over and washed through by this energy of love, moving out of that mental space, out of this element of trying to control things, trying to almost, keep things in a very neat and tidy box. This is the energy of answering that call, surrendering to that pull, allowing oneself to be changed and shaped in all the best ways by love, allowing this, with that sun energy, kind of the best version of self to come up. This person getting some clarity or hindsight that the struggles they have been through, the heartbreak that they have been through, it has all been preparation. It has been that fire, it has been the ash, it has been the ruin of so many versions of themselves, so many hopes and dreams and things they may have, invested that faith in the past. All of that rubble almost created that kindling for this bonfire of love, this phoenix energy, this rebirth, this rise. And it's something where, it could have come in very unexpectedly for the two of you, as situations like this often do, kind of when you're not looking for it, very unexpectedly, there it is. And so kind of a natural process of leaning into that only to pull away and get very overwhelmed. It's almost the energy of ebb and flow, kind of resistance and surrender. This feels like somebody who, has some introspection about this, who is able to have some kind of clarity, or some clarity is coming through, maybe in the form of downloads, in the form of signs, just in a sense of even the feeling that they have now that whatever this is has taken place, and they are able to kind of recognize the opposite of what they were feeling, what they were sensing, the way the two of you were connecting energetically prior to this kind of breaking point, or this conclusion of a chapter. This is now kind of that space in between the turning of the page, where one is able to then reflect, one is able to digest on everything that has occurred, to kind of do that debrief, to see what did they do right in this situation, what felt really good, what were they really proud of themselves about, what was an example of that best version of self coming forth, what were some things that maybe they could do better, that need to be improved upon, that are really being called to their attention to kind of step through these things, walls that need to again be kind of kicked down on their part. This not being a solo endeavor, but the two of you really in this time and space that you find yourselves in now, again, kind of getting that, it's almost, those constructive criticisms then that are coming back in from your higher self, from your spirit guides, from your soul, as you're sort of reviewing everything that has occurred. And recognizing what, in your life in general, or if the two of you come back together and kind of try to restart this or move on from this point, sort of what to do better. What has been triggered within the both of you? What were the responses versus the reactions? What can each of you do on your part to try and break out of those cycles and to create some different results moving forward? With this energy of the Two of Wands as well, this is again somebody who is really, taking inventory. They are taking note of what happened. This is not something where this is an out of sight, out of mind energy. This is very much an introspective energy right now. This is very much something where this person is very cognizant of what has occurred. This is somebody who is, maybe in their logical mind. They're feeling into things. They're looking around. They're trying to kind of put these pieces together, create some kind of semblance of collectedness out of the disarray that has now occurred. They are recognizing you as, this very nurturing energy, this loving energy, this sense of empowerment that they felt in your presence. Again, that best version of self really being brought forth through interacting with you, through the time spent together, and sort of this energy dynamic that was exchanged between the both of you. And this is helping to shed some light on, again, some things that they need to work through. it feels like there's a sense of gratitude with that as well, as difficult and as painful as this may be, as humbling as this experience might have been. That this does feel like somebody who is, grateful for this opportunity to truly self-reflect, to truly be shown, or to having been led to sort of parts of themselves that maybe through other dynamics or other relationships with other people, these greatest potentials and deepest buried wounds were not touched upon by others. These things, were not accessed by others. These things were not brought to their attention, or were somehow kind of covered or sort of swept over, were not really emphasized within them, and just kind of allowed to remain dormant, sort of stewing there in the subconscious, kind of rearing their ugly head in very reactive behavior or very avoidant behavior. And so it's something where, leaning into that space of inventory, this process of really balancing out kind of that feminine polarity of receptivity and intuition. And with that, constructing a plan, that masculine energy, that action-oriented energy to do something better, to create a change. This person being at a crossroads right now, continue in the same cycles, or really use this opportunity that has been created, that has been contributed to by the both of you, for kind of this change, this up-leveling, an altering of circumstances within themselves that is then able to alter how they show up in the world. Somebody who's been presented with this gift of love and kind of at this choice point right now, to take that cup, to take the steps necessary to reach that cup, to be there and to exchange with that, or the choice to, again, just kind of remain in these cycles and have that energy continue to be very elusive to them in the grand scheme of their life. So I'm going to get some messages from this person's higher self, group 1, and see what do they want to say. Okay, and they say, please forgive me for running away. So again, they are acknowledging that something was really triggered within them. Sort of the intensity and potential of this love was very triggering. It was very enticing. Something where, just as they were kind of able to maybe crack through some kind of shell or barrier you had around your heart and really identify that pearl within, that purity within, that pure love within, in some way that shell was cracked within them. There was an exposure or this sort of urge to bring forth that tenderness, that purity that dwells within them, that they may have worked very hard to kind of preserve and tuck away, to not even look at within themselves, for fear of just being very overcome by a sense of longing for, that heart, that the pearl that they possess inside would be safe with. That longing for, the pearl within another to be bestowed upon them, this longing within them to be that person, to be that worthiness, to be that safe space where somebody would, really feel that sanctuary, where they could be entrusted with the care of another's heart. And just the intensity of that crossroads energy of really this opportunity to step up in the ways in which they're showing up for themselves, and for another, their ability to give and receive love, and the intensity of that. Again, whatever was triggered within them, some of these kind of deep buried wounds, and this apology for having pulled back instead of leaning further into it, just feeling that they needed to kind of retract or retreat, edging a little too close to kind of the pathway or the precipice to break through in a major way in terms of what they've experienced in romance. And they also say your sensuality is so alluring. So that's that magnetism, that draw, that kind of unspoken and untangible, almost aroma of attraction between the both of you. This soul connection energy, this pull across the distance. Almost that, kind of defies free will in a sense. Or it's actually sort of it's the purpose of free will, that ability to have choice, and kind of what that element of choice, what that affords is sort of this exercise in discernment, kind of separating the wheat from the chaff. learning a lot of what love is not in order to be able to identify what love is. And they also say, I have a serious fear of both abandonment and suffocation. So this person might have been through a lot of disappointments in love in the past, times when they, were vulnerable, when they opened themselves up and experienced some kind of rejection about that. That can be part of that 10 of Swords, those lingering wounds within them that they just kind of put away in a cupboard and tried to really move forward as best as they could from that. Also a sense of fear of losing themselves to love. Somebody who may have really, through the heartbreaks that they have experienced and the work that they have done to really rebuild themselves, to get to a place where they feel good about themselves, or they feel okay about themselves even. Just definitely in a place of acceptance of where they have been, some stability they've created within themselves emotionally, however tenuous that might be. There's a sense of really clinging to that, of not wanting to be really stifled or overwhelmed by that or have that all collapse. For fear of maybe what it took to build that, not being sure if they have the strength or the stamina to kind of do that all over again. This energy of suffocation also really speaks to somebody who, maybe have only sort of experienced glimmers of love. Somebody who, has experienced the absence of love often. And when they have touched upon those glorious rays of the sun of love, in however brief of a period of time, and that being very overwhelming, almost this sting, almost more than they can handle, this magnificence, and what has really kind of been perceived and picked up by them in this connection. It's almost beyond what they have experienced. This is somebody who has this desire to lean into this, but has maybe never experienced the fullness of love. They're not really sure how to even breathe in that, how to really act in that, understanding that kind of all of them has the potential to really be exposed, but at the same time this opportunity that all these parts of themselves can really be pulled together and loved by the heart that is meant for them, by the heart that is truly being pulled to them, and that they are being pulled to. And so it's almost this fear of accepting this blessing which has presented itself. And they also say, I let you get closer than anyone, and it freaked me out. So again, that idea of this person on some level really having brought down some walls, cracked open their shell a little bit, or a lot, and having allowed you in very close to that pearl within them, that purity, that place that is kind of, what remains or what has always been there, despite how much their heart or their emotions may have been mishandled by sort of clumsy hands of others in the past, people who didn't know how to love them right, people who weren't loving themselves, and therefore were operating out of kind of that energy of distortion. And so this feels like somebody who, again, has this very tender heart that they have kind of walled up. They've created this barricade around, this fortress. It's almost that fortress has kind of become a tomb or a mausoleum for that heart, which still sort of breathes within them, but that they had maybe just kind of resigned themselves to just needing to keep in that very kind of small way for themselves, resign themselves to moving through a world that has been very unloving to them, that has been very unsympathetic to them, kind of somebody who's become really accustomed to mediocrity in love, or just kind of settling for this energy of crumbs. Somebody who when they show their true face, when they really allow themselves to be expressed and exposed, may have experienced a lot of rejection. And so this is somebody who on some level has taken a chance on love in this connection, has allowed themselves to be pulled open in all the best ways, slowly and subtly, by this connection between the two of you. And it just really got to that point almost of, a complete change, a complete new experience, maybe something that was said, or a dynamic, an exchange between the both of you. And what was demonstrated to them, even vibrationally, might have caught them very much by surprise. It was something they were so unaccustomed to, something so small that, just really, it almost filled them with a sense of tenderness and a sense of, somebody being very, compassionate and empathetic toward them, somebody truly having their best interest in mind, which could be so different from what they are used to dealing with other people. This feels like somebody who has kind of gone through life, or has had to go through life, keeping their own best interests at the forefront. They are not accustomed to dealing with people that have their best interests in mind. This could be somebody that's used to dealing with people that only kind of take, it's only about them. This person feeling maybe that they are just kind of at the convenience of others. And so to encounter a situation with somebody who, sees them, who understands kind of their needs, or maybe even what their soul is crying out for, unspoken pains, and seeks to come to that with this balm of understanding. Kind of that idea of, I will sit there with you while these wounds hurt until they don't hurt so much anymore. And this being very much out of the ordinary of what this person has experienced in connections with people in the past, romantic, platonic, familial. And so as enticing as that was, it's almost this new territory. It's almost this sense of, what they had wished and imagined love could be like, but that it never had, up to this point, really demonstrated itself to be. And so to encounter that, to be presented with that, kind of really triggered kind of these ideas of too good to be true, too vulnerable, that's too much. To step further into that would just open up to, complete devastation should things dissolve in the future. And they also say, I never should have let you go. So a lot of regrets over what has happened between you, and a decision to, again, pull back their energy, or kind of pull away from that closeness that the two of you had, to in some way create dissonance in the harmony between the both of you. This person thinking a lot about this, reflecting a lot about this. Again, this kind of liminal space where one stage or phase or chapter of this dynamic is closed. And you're both sort of sitting in that pause, that kind of silence between the notes before the next phase happens. It's this decision point. What are you going to do? For both of you, are you going to, recognize maybe some cycles that are here, some things that need to be, cleared and transcended? Are you going to choose to, stay within that comfort zone, or are you going to choose to open yourself up fully or more deeply to the experience of love, stepping into that light of love, rather than kind of tucking away into almost this idea of sort of the dark side of the moon, the lack of that, where love is only a thought or a suggestion. It's only a theory. And they also say your touch is electric. So you definitely activate one another. You definitely trigger one another. You trigger out the best version of one another. And with that triggering also comes up kind of these wounds, these barriers, sort of that sampling or that taste. This is what is possible. And these are the things that need to be cleared away, that can no longer be there. These are kind of the plates of armor that must be taken apart, that must be dismantled, that must be put aside. Not even in terms of, in general, how one is moving through the world, but the exclusivity of this dynamic, of this connection. If there's anywhere to find sanctuary, it's in this situation. Kind of this sense of somebody who might have been very accustomed to kind of battling or trying to really, preserve that tenderness inside. And, through this circumstance, really being shown or being led kind of at the soul level that, this is a place where surrender is appropriate. This is that battle. This is that war you have been waging. This is that victory that you have been seeking. And they also say, I'm not quite ready to give you what you deserve. So they definitely need some time to kind of sort this all out, to figure out what has happened, what this means, what the steps forward are. The wounds that could have been triggered within this person and within you. These are deeply entrenched things within the subconscious. This is a major pivot point of change. new experience of giving and receiving love with another person. And it's something where, you know, it's almost a challenge then that is presented. This could be something where it takes some time to kind of slowly dismantle those plates of armor. In other ways, even through kind of determinations or promises or vows that this person makes to themselves, to slowly kind of inch through that, to work their way through that, you know, periods of time where they're just going to stay back there within that fortress, back there within, you know, kind of that old cycle, that way of moving through the world that no longer serves them, sort of that stale energy. Now that there's been this taste of fresh air, it does provide that contrast, kind of that either or. Either you stay in what, you know, you've been doing, what you've been circulating around, kind of this idea of the fishbowl, and, you know, having grown to the capacity where now it's very stagnant and kind of moving around in that. Or there's this opportunity to kind of leave that enclosure and, you know, really enter into the lake, enter into the pond, enter into this space of freedom and of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of sanctuary, to where different, you know, faces of love than may have been encountered or experienced previously really have the ability to become known, and, you know, to be revealed from within them, and also, you know, as they are then kind of have the honor or the ability to reveal within you as well, sort of the two of you really opening up for one another in a capacity, some portion of love that you hold within that it's almost like you may have been really keeping that inside, keeping it for, you know, just that right moment, that very special time. This is what has been really cultivating. This is kind of what has been preserved within the both of you. It's this idea almost of, you know, the scroll with the seal on it, and the two of you breaking that seal. This is the time. This is the time to, you know, all these other sort of instances of disappointment, the highs and lows of love. It has all been preparation for this encounter, for this moment. You know, two people with these pearls within them, and sort of the, you know, the forces of the universe, the dynamic between the both of you, what has been triggered, what you're feeling very compelled toward, sort of what you're reflecting on, and that providing this clarity through time, through introspection, you know, and maybe a little bit of sort of coming closer only to kind of pull back, that some kind of wheel has been set in motion here where, you know, those pearls within both of you have really spoken to one another. And now is the process of really excavating that, bringing those out into the surface so that you are both, you know, able to kind of present that to one another and say, here this is. I have been keeping this for you. I have been waiting for you to receive this from me. So I'm going to get some guidance for you, group one, about the situation. Okay, and we have chemistry. There is a strong magnetic attraction here. So that is a confirmation of, you know, this energy of magnets, this energy of really being pulled toward one another, that despite what is happening with any sort of separation or distance or strain that you might feel right now, this is kind of, it's a temporary and necessary pause in these circumstances, sort of the both of you kind of moving into this distance, into this space in order to really process, in order to really kind of decipher contrast, and to recognize sort of the sweetness that you shared, the potential that existed there versus kind of what the opposite of that is, what distance from that now feels like. And also on this card with this, you know, these two people, and they're holding that kind of luminous pearl. So again, that confirmation of the two of you really having touched that pearl within each other, even on an energetic level, something really having sparked to life through this connection within the both of you. And now that has really sparked to life, now that is a voice within both of you that is not, it is no longer silent. This is something which now has an identity. This is something which now, you know, can be kind of this contributing factor to the choices that you make to work on things, to move forward. This is that beacon on the horizon that has been identified. This is that heart light. This is that magnet within both of you that is kind of pulling you through these obstacles in the world around you, through these obstacles within self, to that point of unification where those two pearls become one. It becomes this force of love, this living force of love, through the embodiment of one another, through the exchange of one another. and kind of tapping into that, actualizing that, giving birth to that force, and recognizing again this idea of, you know, despite how the world sort of treats you, or the ways in which you are kind of moving through the world, that too is a contrast to the sanctuary between the both of you. This is not something that need involve other people. It is almost like, you know, finding that recognition in the sea of faces, the idea of yes, living in the land of no. And now that recognition, that cognition, that spark, those two pearls have really, you know, had that communion with one another. This will be this kind of driving force within the both of you at this point forward to, again, identify these triggers, work on these things, maybe choose to remain in some kind of stale or outdated cycles for periods of time. But, you know, that call being there, that call having been activated, something within the two of you, at the core of the both of you really having been activated, that can help you at this point in your journey, in navigating through kind of that fabric of free will, through that fabric of choice, all the while, you know, continuing to pull one another back toward each other, toward that interlocking of those pearls and the creation of sort of that third and glorious, almost this omnipotence between the both of you, through what you're discovering about your own shadows and light, and kind of combining forces and creating this space of balance within the both of you, truly this balance within the both of you, as you kind of seek and successfully endeavor to create that balance within yourselves. So I'm going to get some initials for you now. Group 1, this can be first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got N, T, G, I, C, L, B, X, H, Q, and S. So those are your messages, group 1. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I also sell handmade jewelry there if you are interested in checking that out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, group 2. I chose the Amethyst. along with these cards, which I'll start with to get kind of an idea about how you think they feel, about what's happened, what's going on right now in your connection versus how they actually feel. So we have stars, coffin, anchor, Sovereign Queen Maeve, Vulva Visidir, Frog Clan, Cleansing, Release, Healing, the Empress, the Fool, the Hanged Man, and Three of Swords. So there's a sense here of somebody who was maybe very triggered by kind of this vulnerability that was really being elicited out of them. Something about this connection and this idea with stars of kind of this higher love than what they had been accustomed to experiencing in the past with one another, or with one another, or with other people even, that some kind of a precipice was crossed in this connection. Sort of a new level of understanding or awareness of who you are to them, of the potential that exists within this connection, that could have, really kind of caught them off guard. There's a sense here with this this heart of glass, of this vulnerability. The two of you really, seeing eye to eye, or connecting very intimately at the soul level. Your hearts really speaking to one another. And that at some point in time, something really kind of shook this person, and it was almost like, without them even realizing it, they were being vulnerable. They were being that high vibration of love. And it almost feels like, having really ascended to a certain level, stopping and looking around them and realizing that, the ground had disappeared. What they had, known before, what they had experienced of love before, of themselves, of their ability to show up in a partnership and a connection before, it had ceased to exist. It was almost gone. It's this idea of kind of levitation, without even trying, just participating in this connection, in this situation with you. And it brought them up to, kind of that best version of self, maybe in a sense of kind of experiencing that very quickly, kind of this idea of sort of that rush, and then the fear of being so open, being so exposed, really kind of being, having moved from being somebody on the earth looking up, at the sky, to all of a sudden then there they are among the stars. That hope that they may have even given up on to some degree of, really finding that very compatible soul with them. This counterpart energy almost, and just kind of contenting themselves to kind of dwelling in this realm of less than satisfactory connections, situations and people who really weighed them down, or didn't encourage them to really step into that best version of self, kind of situations that brought out the worst in this person, that they had maybe just really resigned themselves with the hanged man. That's just the way it is. There's no moving beyond that. There's no kind of going beyond that, and just to kind of make the best of that, make the best of what's there, be content with that, be grateful there's at least something. And all the while, having with this healing here, kind of this wound within them, sort of this longing within them, this longing for more, but maybe having gotten to the point with Coffin of really kind of putting those dreams aside, just kind of burying that within them. And again, this sense of really just having contented themselves with sort of the level of intimacy and connection they were able to achieve and experience with other people. And so something about this dynamic and the two of you, it brought them up out of that. It's this energy too with coffin of kind of resurrection, this hopefulness within this person, this purity within their heart, really having been brought forth. Almost just as kind of a byproduct of the two of you really, combining and exchanging energies with one another. This feels like something that was very spontaneous, not planned by the two of you. Almost very quickly going from kind of that lower density energy and kind of bringing that up beyond crown chakra energy even, kind of moving through all of that, really touching on all of that, activating each other in these very kind of subtle and profound ways, firing up the full chakra system. This idea almost of, kind of that buildup, that kundalini energy, that idea of a rocket getting ready to kind of transcend the atmosphere and, kind of the rumble and the shake as things are kind of building, are kind of moving, and the two people just sort of going with that, just riding that, just holding on and just, going on that adventure, seeing where that goes, and then to break through that kind of atmosphere, that barrier, that experience, even on a very subtle level, at the heart level, at the soul level, the two of your souls really touching one another. And it was almost, before you know it, in this breathless sort of sense, you have both been released from your conceptions and ideas of love. Then being able to kind of almost immediately from that higher vantage point, look around and see that what you were maybe dealing with before, what you had, endured, what you had kind of made yourself or convinced yourself was acceptable, was okay, was something you could live with. Seeing how that is just, it's a pinprick compared to sort of this wide open expanse of possibility. It's this idea of almost, being up in that atmosphere and looking down upon the earth and seeing how small that was, how the experience of love previous, how small that was compared to what was opened up between the two of you. Kind of this newness, this sense of adventure, these new territories that the two of you really have this potential to explore. This idea of this with the Fool, kind of that leap of faith, that sort of new territory for the both of you that could have very much triggered this person. There's a sense here of maybe feeling that, that overwhelm and them really recoiling from this, pulling away from this, kind of that idea of sort of moving out of that space of kind of keeping up with you, keeping that pace with you. And then they look down, they see kind of where they were, their comfort zone, what they were accustomed to. And all of a sudden then kind of losing that kind of levity that the two of you had gained. There's a sense of maybe feeling that this person is happier there, that they are happy in that kind of comfort zone, that dimension of what love had been like for them. Somebody who is not interested in changing, somebody who's not interested in continuing forth with that evolution, that personal evolution, kind of fueled by this experience of love that has been touched on. There's a very solitary energy here of kind of just trying to sort of keep what has been attained, what has been kind of unveiled through this. A sense of, moving forward, trying to keep your heart open as much as possible, trying to follow your intuition, to recognize that, this unique experience between you and this person, the sense of almost washing clean without trying both of your hearts, really kind of transcending all that debris and that clutter that existed between the two of you or within the two of you from other sort of sour experiences of love in the past, and somehow this connection really being able to kind of break through that, to get through that, to clean that glass, to render that clean, to step into that place of frailty and vision, moving into that heart space, seeing that, recognizing each other at the soul level, recognizing each other, almost the sense of this is where love has been hiding the whole time. and kind of feeling that, you know, this person is maybe not interested in that, not wanting that for themselves, that they're happier again, kind of back in that energy of sort of endings, that, you know, the endings that has occurred, sort of what was lost, that velocity, that levity that you two had achieved, and how that has just kind of, you know, fallen away, or they, with the anchor, they've kind of pulled themselves back down. They've been pulled down back into the space of fear, back into the space of, you know, kind of containment within themselves, trying to almost, you know, kick the dust back on and hide this sort of this crystalline heart, this glass heart, this purity, trying to kind of, you know, avoid what they've just seen, you know, rub their eyes, distract themselves, look at anything else, to try and ignore that. You know, somebody who's, you know, kind of looking away from this, closing themselves off to this, and a sense of maybe really thinking that they feel that is best, that, you know, the love you had to offer, it's too overwhelming, it's too spooky, it's too otherworldly, you know, maybe feeling that kind of the vulnerability that they are experiencing with you, this is something where, you know, they might feel having been very manipulated into this in some way. And, you know, so having to kind of sit with that weight of kind of this thing that has occurred between the both of you, kind of outside of your control, out of both of your control, something that was very almost spontaneous, something that was really activated within the both of you, and then this kind of rising into love that has occurred. And so again, just feeling that they are more satisfied in what was known and comfortable, that they are kind of rejecting this, they are rejecting that offer, that they are content with kind of not experiencing that, not wanting to let that into themselves, not wanting to let that kind of fill them and saturate them. This really kind of contrasts with what they're actually feeling. There's a sense of relief that they have experienced in this. There's a sense of healing that has occurred with them, even in that levity that you have both kind of encountered, and then that fall back to earth, that anchoring, that grounding, that even in this kind of separation, even in this kind of distance, this dormancy that now exists between the two of you, kind of like that waking up from that dream that has stayed with them, that energy, that exchange, that what was seen, what was touched, those worlds that were experienced within themselves and beyond what they have come to know and experience love as previously. The energy of that has remained with them. A lot is happening within this person. That clarity of heart that they have experienced with you, that they have seen within you, and that you have helped them to see within themselves. It is giving them a new perspective. In this energy of the hanged man, while things may be kind of at a distance between the both of you currently, or, you know, this person is sort of pulled back into that comfort zone, they are seeing that comfort zone. They are seeing their world with fresh eyes. There's almost this idea of, you know, the perception having been cleansed to such an ability, there is no closing it back down. Once they have seen this, they cannot unsee this. And it's something where, you know, this might be making it very kind of agitating for what they're looking around at in their world, almost a sense of frustration at what they had settled for, what they had, you know, really come to convince themselves was nourishing for them, was enough, was sufficient, was sustainable. There's a sense of, you know, this person maybe feeling very angry about that, about kind of the ways in which, you know, their heart, their true heart, wasn't even recognized by others, that the facade, the mask, this kind of tarnished or cloaked version that they had presented in the world to others around them, that nobody really cared enough. Nobody could really see beyond that, see that that was just a facade. Nobody took the time to really kind of feel into that, recognizing that polarity of other connections that they have had, platonic, familial, and romantic, and seeing that difference, how nobody has reached them, nobody has touched them at that very pure level. Nobody has ever, you know, sort of gently taken their cheeks and sort of turned their eyes, their head away from whatever it was they were looking at, and provided that other perspective, like with the hanged man here. They're kind of, maybe we're just looking forward, and this situation has kind of turned them, said, look over here, what you have been looking for, what you have perceived, what you have thought was kind of the reality, or what was sustainable for you, was satisfactory. There's so much else. There's something different. There's something more than you are understanding about what love could be, what that could feel like. There's something more that you're needing to see. You're needing to understand about yourself. The road you have been traveling is no longer. It serves no purpose anymore. It's a narrow road. It leads to nowhere. But there is another way. There is this pathway over here. This is kind of that off-ramp that you have been waiting for, that you have been looking for, that all of this sort of settling has been kind of the blur on the horizon in the fast-moving car, and that this connection is, it's that signal, it's that GPS that says, turn here, exit here. This is where you are trying to go. This is where you're needing to head, and that this is not gone unnoticed by this person. Something has really clicked within them. Something, with this kind of new lens that they have been afforded. Again, they are really seeing into and deciphering the world around them. There's a sense of dustiness to that, and wanting to really cleanse that out. Their awareness having been cleansed, and kind of that force, what they have brought back with them from that bardo, from that liminal space, that really, taking root within them, it becoming part of their energy. It is now a part of them. And all which does not fit into that vibration, kind of clearing away, sort of this idea of, things really being stirred up, really being purified within this person, within their environment, within how they are showing up in connections, things they may have really tolerated or settled for in the past, no longer standing for that, no longer resonating with that, wanting to move away from that, pushing these things away. So a lot happening again in this distance, this idea of kind of, with the frogs here, and sort of, dwelling in those two environments, the earth, this material world, and kind of what they had come to know, and the experience and how that had shaped them, and moving into that space of water, these emotions, these emotional depths, taking a look at what has, really been reflected to them by others, and what, has really been reflected to them by this connection. And this desire to, kind of come out of that ordinary parched space, and to be quenched by this newness, by this emotion, by this vulnerability, by this flow that this connection has really opened up for them. With this energy here of sovereign queen and vulva, which is a Scandinavian term for a seer or a shaman, and then also the empress, they are recognizing you as having been the guide for them to this purity of heart. They are seeing that the intuition that you really have tapped into, the ways in which you have, unlocked your own heart, in which you've allowed your heart to open up to this, the light of your heart, which you have shown this person. It has been that key that their heart has been waiting for. It has unlocked that gate within them, to where then, that purity that was kind of, with this idea here in the Three of Swords with these mountains, it had always been a challenge. It had always been something unreachable. It had been something which, maybe they thought didn't exist within them. This could be somebody who, maybe considers himself to not be a very good person, or a flawed person, or a deficient person somehow. Kind of the rough hands of others upon their heart really having, kind of tarnished that perception, or dented that perception somehow. And that the connection with you, the energy that you embody, this very healing energy, this very nurturing energy, again, this very guiding energy, this guiding light of love within you, it has really summoned their heart up from the depths. It has summoned their heart from beyond all these kind of preconceived notions and things that were really projected upon them by others, ways in which they'd come to perceive and believe themselves. And it's something where, it's bringing up kind of this urge for self-compassion, this urge to be very, forgiving with oneself, for the ways in which they allowed that heart light to be dimmed, or they allowed others to maybe project upon them, and had come to believe that they were somehow not an absolutely beautiful heart, that they were not somehow worthy of showing that, or that it was unsafe to show that, that it was something, maybe the love they had to give with this energy of anchor. Maybe it was, people telling them that it was too intense, it was too much. They should hide that away, they should stuff that away, they should not show that, that's a part of them that wasn't, very appealing. They had come to kind of associate this light within them, this love within them, as part of shadow. And it feels like they are really they're recognizing you as somebody who was able to kind of move through that underworld space within them, with that kind of that idea of the seer and this shamanic journey. You moved through the layers of this person through your interactions with them, even just at the soul level, as you're touching on these different layers of one another, kind of crossing that terrain from sort of that, those higher extensions, those good times, down into, who they are kind of on the mundane level, and then kind of reaching down into that subconscious. You were the one who was able to find that heart that they had lost, that they had forgotten, that nobody else was able to see or recognize, or that others had kind of, pushed down or forced them to sort of bury, to sort of keep very hidden. And through this just kind of innate energy that you have, through this dynamic between the both of you, these aspects of yourself that were really activated by this person, that you have provided them with some kind of healing, some kind of clarity. You have found that heart within them. And through the process of, your interactions, you have helped this person to see that heart is worthy of love, that is a beautiful treasure within them. This may be the first time that they felt, very safe and seen and held by another on that kind of deep and emotional and intimate level, which again might have been very kind of startling for them. The sense of being touched at such a deep level within them. And then as they're opening their eyes and they're looking around and they're seeing, how unmatched, what that feeling, what that purity, what that high love, what that, kind of that hopefulness, and looking around and almost feeling that, the way that they are living, their environment, kind of a lot of their other belief systems as well, it's not a suitable environment for this. There's an idea here also with cleansing of release of maybe somebody who's entering into this kind of nesting period, where they're needing to again kind of clear some clutter, filter some things away, prepare themselves, prepare their environment, prepare their energy to be able to receive and create that place of sanctuary, that place of honor, where your most pure heart is at home, where your most pure heart is safe. This feels like somebody who wants to make themselves more emotionally safe for you. Somebody who is recognizing kind of this very unique and precious energy that you exude, this knowing, this confidence, almost without trying or without really, in a contrived way, but just very innately. This very healing energy that comes from you, and recognizing this as something which, must be preserved. It must be protected. And so almost in this act of protection, it feels that they've almost pushed this away, kind of pushed you, not into a space of distance, but almost having created some kind of a temporary sanctuary or refuge, kind of like, stay over here while I get the rest of this ready. Not wanting to really, sully this connection, or kind of inflict some of this dustiness upon you, holding you and this connection in a very kind of exalted state, seeing this as a new beginning, recognizing that, to move fully into this is that achievement of velocity. It is them stepping into that, that highest version of self, where the two of you are very sovereign together. The two of you are, you're not in this competition energy of trying to kind of one up each other, or pull each other down, or, really using one person using the other, and the other just kind of, giving to the point of exhaustion. But this is a very kind of balanced energy. The two of you, really quenching and feeding one another, encouraging one another, balancing one another, being that dynamic of, challenge to step into that best version of self, and also that applause at the small kind of and major steps that are taken to really embody that, to really step into that, to really, live that truth. And so again, it feels like somebody who's in this process of kind of cleansing and release, identifying things within themselves that now that they've touched on this, now that they've kind of gotten that wisdom, gotten that perspective, and they've come back down to earth, they're kind of, they have a plan of action then, or at least, a vibrational point to work toward, to strive toward, through this kind of process of cleansing and inventory of what can come forward, what needs to be reshaped, what needs to be let go. Again, this idea of kind of this air purifier, kind of going through those molecules and debris-ing that environment within themselves, within their physical reality, within their perceptions of self. Any kind of, that crystalline heart that was exposed, and it's got these 3 swords in it. So there's that purity, but there's still these thorns which need to be extracted within this person. And again, this sense of really maybe having kind of pushed away or pulled away from you, to not wound you, not wanting to inflict this upon you, recognizing that potential, but also seeing there are things that need to be kind of taken out, discarded, healed within them. So it feels like somebody who's not, this hanged man energy, it's kind of this temporary pause. This is sort of this idea of not never, but not now. Kind of like there's things that they need to do. Now they are aware of kind of the next step of what to do. There's a plan in place. They have a list, a to-do list, some projects within themselves, things that they now need to kind of work through and recognize in order to kind of slowly but surely pull those swords out of their own heart, to slowly but surely kind of allow this mechanism of self-healing to take place within them. And with that, kind of what was touched on in this connection with you, to allow that energy to also infuse them remotely from afar and through memory with that energy of healing and encouragement and cleansing, so that what has been revealed to them, this purity of heart, their true heart, that they can kind of work to sort of bring that up, almost this idea of what was discovered in this very elevated stance, and kind of reconciling that with the root, creating that that bridge, becoming that bridge, bringing that point down into their reality, and also stepping up to meet that. So I'm going to get some messages from this person's higher self for you now, group 2, and see what do they want to say. Okay, and they say it was easier to disappear than face my shadows. So again, kind of what, this clarity, this purity of heart that was revealed to them, it has also provided that contrast of kind of the ways in which they allowed that heart to be cloaked, or that they came to believe that cloak was the reality. Things about themselves that, maybe they have felt some kind of shame or guilt, or have been made to feel, or were convinced by others were sort of these less desirable qualities about themselves. This almost feels like, this upside down perspective that has been shown to them by you, by the energy, by the way that the two of you have really interacted, and what has really been birthed within them. This is kind of that, that actual application of, experiencing somebody who kind of has love, flaws and all, and, really kind of the tendency to believe that that's just an illusion, that we must just come to terms with ourself. We must just, come to love ourself, dim and diminish some things in order to be able to successfully kind of move through the world and make ourselves fit into other people's expectations and lives. And there's a feeling here of this, even in an unspoken way, kind of just, this love for the totality, this love for, even the parts that have been kind of misunderstood or underappreciated by others. This is an energy of, truly encountering somebody who brings that into practice, kind of that idea of, by loving you, I love myself. that it is not, purely a singular, it's not a singular job, or in some way, the ways in which you have really sought to embody that love of self and being at that point of being able to offer that in a genuine way to another, something that might have been very unexpected for this person. Again, maybe someone who could have really dealt with a lot of individuals who weren't loving themselves, who weren't operating out of that energy and really projected that out, projected those kind of shadows or those deficiencies within themselves onto this person, making them feel that there's something wrong with them, or what they had to offer, the love they had to offer was not good enough, and in some way they've kind of taken that within them. They've come to believe that that's a reality. They've created a life around those kind of core distortions within them. And so kind of the antithesis of that, sort of this idea of you really showing them how beautiful they are, even in the parts of themselves they may find to be very ugly, or something, to again kind of hide away, or this shame, this intensity within them. That it's been very refreshing, it's been very healing for this person, and at the same time, it's that idea of it's so different than what they had come to really convince themselves of and believe, that it's almost kind of the demons they were running from were in fact their angels, and somebody who's not really being prepared necessarily to accept that, to abandon that worldview, or it's something they just need to sit with a little more. It's going to take some time to digest and to really let go of those preconceived notions, to understand that they are good enough, they are worthy, they are whole and perfect, just as they are, with all of their contrast, that all of that is what makes them, just this very luminous presence. You've really shone the light on, or reflected this luminosity within them to them. And now it's kind of this point of needing to step into that place of belief within themselves, taking that chance on, experiencing kind of a different avenue of love, or a different dynamic of love than they may have been accustomed to in the past. Okay, and they say, when I'm with you, everything seems possible. So again, this idea of the two of you really opening up for each other, the best version of self, that it goes from being this theory, this cliche, this thing that people say, oh, you have to work on that, you have to strive toward that. It seems within reach. It seems very measurable. It's something where, the kind of the energy between the both of you, the way in which you respond to this person, you interact with this person, just vibrationally, energetically, even in the most mundane sense, that is such a different sensation than what they are accustomed to with others. It's something where it's challenging and supportive in a way that creates kind of like breathing room, which might be something that is very unusual for this person. They could be used to kind of that energy of tension, always needing to be on guard, learning to, maybe just have that contentment within themselves, within their quiet moments, but at their interactions with other people, it's always a process of kind of dimming themselves or puffing themselves up, just needing to, kind of be very active and vacillating in the way that they move through the world. And it's something where, this connection, this energy between the both of you, it has opened the door to peace. It has provided that kind of, that seeking, that sanctuary, that kind of core beyond that energy of needing to move through that world in that very dynamic way, needing to respond and adjust to other people and what's being kind of encountered. It's kind of like almost the softness, this place of rest, away from a world that has teeth and that has been very unkind to this person, that has kind of brought out a side of themselves that is, it's so different from this other kind of clarity, this crystalline, this gentleness within them, that they may have really just been conditioned to believe was not acceptable, that it was not safe to be that way, it was not desirable to be that way, it was somehow wrong or flawed to be that way. And there's a sense of, really this connection helping this person to return to innocence, resistance within themselves, feeling very compelled by that, but at the same time, maybe pushing this away because they know that, to sustain that, to live in that, to allow that to thrive in a more tangible way in their life, that there are other sort of factors that would cut at that would chip away at that need to be kind of cleansed and prepared within themselves and within their environment in order to really to be able to invite this in and to present it fully. And they also say, I have a serious fear of both abandonment and suffocation. So this could have been someone who is really used to, relationships that collapse, good times, kind of this feeling of joviality, this jovial energy, only to give way to kind of the dissolve into sort of disagreements and pain and conflict. Somebody who has, really come to be kind of skeptical of love, sort of is not, is trying to be kind of guarded to not get carried away by, what they would define as a honeymoon phase. And as much as there is, kind of this peace and this sanctuary here, there's a sense with this energy between the both of you of being very accepting and a knowing that, it can't always be good times between the both of you. That even in this circumstance of where, however this person is pulled away, there is still that peace in the chasm between the both of you, that has not gone away. And this has not gone unnoticed by this person. And it's helping to really, in a way, sort of provide them with that healing, provide them with that balm, that cleansing, that sort of new perspective that, all the faces that they have are worthy and are good enough, that even if they've kind of, shown their spikes, they've sort of, shown that venom, so to speak, in this situation, that it has not diminished the love that exists. It has not diminished this connection. It may have created some distance, some necessary space, but that cord, that conduit, that place of sanctuary and peace, it is still there. And it's kind of a feeling of this being very new for this person, them being very compelled to that, really wanting to, explore that further or move closer into that. But at the same time, then kind of triggering this fear of, to experience that fully and to lose that, either, through outside circumstances or, maybe this idea of almost too good to be true. What if this is an illusion? What if this is just kind of that buildup in order for the ultimate fall for themselves? Not being sure how they would be able to kind of pick up the pieces from that. Almost feeling safer with keeping this at a distance rather than, fearing that one or the both of you would really kind of extinguish this, either sort of accidentally or that this would just kind of be the inevitable course of things in the future as the relationship was able to kind of develop and grow. And they also say, I miss you so much, I've cried myself to sleep. So a lot of regret over what has happened, this sense of longing, kind of the cleansing of tears, sort of as that first kind of level of that healing, that release, that cleansing of the space. They've touched upon that very divine love, that high love, that pure love. And, back here on earth, back here in kind of the ordinary, in the mundane, in their surroundings, that has come with them. It's starting to sort of take effect to really cleanse out the debris of all which stands in the way of this, which stands in the way of kind of the more tangible expression of that in a material sense. They might have literally cried themselves to sleep, be crying, maybe at night, maybe when they're, kind of on their own in this sort of private space, or this can also be really tears inside, their soul really crying out, that distance is kind of not what they wanted in this circumstance, a decision to kind of pull away and sort of this longing, this crying out now, wanting to come back into that sanctuary, wanting to be there. This frustration also at kind of recognizing that what has been touched on is one point, and then to bring that out into something that is sustainable long-term in the material sense. It's this other point here and kind of the lamentation of that distance that occurs. So that fear that's coming up of, what might be perceived as a long journey to connect those 2 points. Sort of this fear of other things that might come up, obstacles, a fear of, kind of this vulnerability, kind of this feeling of, the time that it's taking to, or will take to kind of bridge that distance, and, this uncertainty about, what if one or the both of you loses your way? What if you lose interest? What if the closer that you get, you don't actually like what you see? It's one thing to be very vibrationally accepting of one another, but then as these things are, kind of manifest into actual intangible sort of, reactions or tendencies or quirks or, issues or wounds that people are needing to work through, and this fear also of, what if they open up, and what if they show you how some of this kind of denser vibration in themselves, how this manifests in the way they move through the world. What if that's something which pushes you away? And kind of that fear that it's just easier to maybe keep this distance at this point in time and just kind of cry out from afar. But through that distance, they are calling out to you. Their soul is very much longing for this. They are very much longing for this, despite what they are able to kind of show you or demonstrate to you at this point in the material world. That there's something that has really come into alignment within them. Kind of all these components being on that same mission, being very focused and kind of knowing the way forward, knowing that point that they are striving for, and kind of also this sense of frustration about, again, how far they have to go within themselves and within their life to create themselves into a place of sanctuary that they feel is acceptable enough to receive and sustain and kind of participate in this vibration of love, and also maybe in environmental factors as well that need to kind of change and shift for them. And they also say, you shook up my life in the best way. So this definitely, caught them by surprise. It most likely caught the both of you by surprise. Something to where, you did not expect to connect with each other on such a deep level. Kind of this idea of not looking for this intensity of love or not even imagining that such a thing was possible. Really maybe having the two of you having kind of buried that heart deep within yourself, just kind of moving through the world, being very kind of resigned, okay to kind of be on your own, being very comfortable in that energy, that stance of empowerment, not really, needing other people to determine your worth and value. Somebody who's able to really truly fill their own cup in a lot of ways. And so, with that energy, embodying that energy of self-love, it has really been that vibration which has magnetized the two of you into one another. Kind of this mastery that you have achieved on self to a certain degree. You are now at that point of, it's time to give that cup to another. And the realization, then the work being that realization that the cup you have is worthy. And the heart you are inclined to present that to is the one that is meant to receive it. And they also say, I really miss our playful banter. So they are thinking back on kind of the journey toward that point of the discovery of kind of the purity and truth of love that had occurred between the both of you vibrationally. And really missing, thinking back on kind of how you built there, how you kind of got to know each other, you opened up a little bit more, the sense of really, again, this peace and this ease that exists in the dynamic between the both of you, where even at points in time where you're maybe not seeing eye to eye on things, there is this ease of back and forth. This person might not have been accustomed to, people who allowed them to kind of stand in their own opinions, who really allowed them to express themselves without being very combative or without trying to really change or shift their perspective, shift their mind, or to really argue. They may not have been used to people also who, when they express that kind of individuality, didn't just fold down and kind of leak into this energy of oh, me too, just to, try and kind of appease that. But two people who are very kind of self-assured and very independent, this could, knowing themselves, very comfortable with who they are, and really, being able to allow the other person to be who they are, recognizing and appreciating kind of that sameness and the difference. And so kind of that vibration of respect, which could be quite different from what they've experienced previously or in other connections. It's something that they are really kind of missing that. It's something that's very unique to them, and it's something which also helps to really be that kind of beacon or that signpost for this purity, this difference in what they experience with you compared to what they've had with others. And just the sense of kind of missing the lighter energy between the both of you. Recognizing and acknowledging this is kind of a heavy, it's a difficult period right now, not feeling good in the separation that has been sort of generated, or this chasm that now exists. And so just kind of, acknowledging that the times that you shared, the good times that you shared, kind of that sense of timelessness as the two of you were just sort of allowing that energy of love to kind of pivot back and forth between you at the heart level. That these are some, very uplifting times for them. It's a sense of, kind of light in a lot of darkness that they might have, that they might have in their life, or that they might have had within themselves. Okay, and they say, I'm a walking, talking 9 of Swords. So this is definitely somebody with a lot of kind of anxiety, fears, nightmares right now. This sense of what have I done? A sense of, maybe a choice to kind of push this away, to pull away from this, this distance that has happened. Maybe seeing you as kind of this, where they want to be, who they want to be, that they were recognizing that they were right there with you. This wasn't something where, they were struggling to keep up, but the two of you were just rising in love, right there with each other, keeping pace with each other, encouraging each other, able to see eye to eye. On a certain level vibrationally, and kind of this idea of them, maybe loosening themselves from that connection by looking at doubt, by looking at fear, by allowing that fear to kind of infiltrate this vibration that you had together, and kind of that crashing down to earth. And now they are finding themselves at this point kind of looking up at that memory of where the two of you were, really seeing you as kind of that partner, or that person with whom they can actually rise in love. Not somebody that they just have to boost up, or that they have to, really be the one who helps to kind of unstick that person from sort of a funky mood, or to really just, be that beacon of strength or support, but the two of you really supporting one another, really allowing one another the space and the patience and kind of the individuality, not a situation of clinginess, but a situation of allowing, as they're back kind of in their material reality. And, they're maybe recognizing people in their lives that, only value them for certain things, only value them for what they have to give versus who they are, or kind of, only value them for sort of the role that that they are fulfilling to these other people, relative to these other people, without really taking into account or cherishing that individuality. That it's something where, this is filling them with that kind of that sense of dread, the more that they are moving through the world and kind of seeing that contrast, that they are they are back amidst vibrations that feel very dense, very kind of sticky and stuck. And it's something where, after having kind of seen that light or experiencing that levity, it's very hard for them to kind of fit back into that old place where they had kind of chameleoned themselves, where they had kind of hidden themselves away, where they had kind of created that structure and moved through the world according to that. And it's something where, again, kind of that difficulty now of sort of fitting back into that role, fitting back into that mask completely. There's a sense of light coming out of the seams at this point in time. It could be very triggering to other people in their environment as well, just this shift within them. People who had been accustomed to them showing up as a certain way, or at a certain vibration, being very irritated at kind of the audacity of this person to step beyond that, to step into a place of joy, to exude their light in a way that might have been inconvenient or uncharacteristic for them. It kind of is outside of the expectations of the role others have come to demand of them, or had come to, just kind of assume is normal, is them, or had tried to tell them like this is who you are, this is how you're supposed to show up, and don't do anything more, don't be anything more, just it's fine as it is, that's enough. And so this sense of anxiety of really wanting to kind of break free from that, to kind of resume again that levity, that closeness, a lot of anxiety also about maybe what needs to be cleansed out, what needs to be cleared, belief systems in their life, situations, circumstances that need to kind of be moved away from, and that filling this person with a lot of dread, wanting to move toward that, but then also the sense of what if I'm wrong, what if I kind of dismantle all these systems within my life and within myself, only to be let down. So something that they're definitely, with that, energy of swords, they're thinking about this a lot. This is heavily on their mind. What has happened? What has been touched on? The meaning of all of this? Where to go from here? What needs to be done? What has occurred? A lot of regret with this anticipation, but also, through all of that, there is also that core, that beacon, that star, that constellation that is just for the two of you, that has been revealed in kind of this night sky. And it's something that is not, it has not left them. It is still with them. It is still kind of this guiding light as they are moving through what needs to be done, finding out what that is, and it's starting to take these action steps toward that, in order to again prepare themselves to step back in and embody and sustain that kind of higher vibration of love with you. So I'm going to get a romance angel to get some guidance for you, group 2, about the situation. Okay, and we have let go of control issues. Allow this situation to unfold naturally. So you're definitely, just guided to continue on in your sovereignty, in that energy of self-love, that energy of empowerment, that called this person in, that they touched on, that they experienced, that helped to really awaken them and bring that awareness to that purity of heart. It's that vibration that you emanate, that called this same vibration forth within this person, and through your interactions, the two of you jointly are the ones who kind of rose to that level, activated these ascensions within each other. This is not something where it's dependent on one or the other. It's this idea of two keys simultaneously turning and activating that process within one another. So continue to again stand in that power, to be that, to embody that, to seek to cultivate that and hone that, and really operate out of this energy of trust that the energy and the vibration the two of you have touched on, that it remains with this person, that they now have work to do ahead of them, to kind of get back to that place, to step into that place where they're ready. They're ready to take this voyage with you, to kind of take that leap of faith into this new beginning, moving beyond fear and into trust. Not trying to really put pressure on this situation, or too much pressure on yourself even. Maybe feeling something that you came on too strong, you were too intense, there was something wrong with you. Really seeking to work on self-forgiveness, and just recognizing and understanding that you did everything right. You embodied that vibration, you embodied your true self, you let that shine, you let that be known, and kind of the recoiling that has happened, that is that necessary step for this person. Any ways in which you are recoiling, or you are starting to question yourself, or you're feeling inclined to kind of fold back in, be a little less intense, kind of fit into that same sort of parameter that this person has been operating in, of kind of shying away, of hiding away a certain purity or a love within themselves. That the two of you are kind of on this parallel path of working through that, fighting through that, holding on to that core, having seen that truth and that belief, and just allowing circumstances and opportunities for growth to unfold, being very proactive in that process, and exercising a lot of compassion, a lot of self-love, and a lot of forgiveness for this person, and forgiveness for yourself also, for any ways in which you may have doubted yourself, or kind of took personally what happened in this situation. So I'm going to get some initials for you now, group 2. This can be first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got U, T, A, K, F, P, Z, Y, O, C, and N. So those are your messages, group 2. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I also sell handmade jewelry in my Etsy shop if you're interested in checking that out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, group 3. I chose the green calcite along with these cards, which I'll start with to get a feel for how you think they feel about the connection, about what's going on right now versus how they actually feel. Got bear, scythe, ring, Dakini of infinite light, Shekinah, Thunderbird clan, imminent change, life force, rebuilding, Five of Wands, Nine of Wands, the Lovers, and Seven of Cups. So there's definitely a lot of resistance that you might be picking up from this person or that they had demonstrated to you in the past. A sense of the connection moving forward, maybe the next step, kind of the next layer of intimacy or closeness or, opportunity to kind of turn the page in the situation, having been revealed or presented to the two of you, and this person really pushing that away, being very defensive with that Five of Wands, being very kind of guarded or cautious with that Nine of Wands. With the scythe, this energy of kind of cutting away, clearing away, not just pushing this connection away, but almost severing something with it, pulling the rug out from under somebody, or cutting down what had been growing, or sort of energetically projecting that onto the situation. This can be something also with the bear, talking about this level of kind of ferocity, not just backing away from the connection, but being kind of aggressive with that, kind of pushing this away, shooing this away, trying to remove this connection, or some kind of level of intimacy that the two of you had really cultivated together, and really, again, just almost an attacking energy. Somebody who, a defense mechanism might have really been triggered within them. Some wound might have really been triggered within them, and it kind of brought out the bear. This idea of almost the mother bear trying to protect her cubs very ferociously, kind of emerging forth out of this very kind of peaceful forest environment, kind of with this viciousness, or this vengefulness, or this just kind of determination that might have been very uncharacteristic from what you were experiencing with this person previously, that could have left you feeling very battered, very wounded, very defeated. There's a sense here of having to kind of put up your own defenses, put up your own walls, kind of pull back, and the two of you each now in your own corners, kind of behind these fortresses, behind these walls, behind these defenses. Your heart being very much kind of guarded and sequestered at this point in time now, after what has occurred with this person, kind of at this point of choice. A choice of where to move from here, what to do now that whatever this is has taken place. Kind of what does that mean, this period of questioning, if everything that had been building or that had been culminating up to that point, was this really just kind of a buildup in order to really be cut down, to really be cut back again? Some questions that might be coming up in terms of, maybe being inclined to trust or kind of question your own intuition, those nudges that you had to open up to this person, feeling that to be a safe space, only to be, cut down and cut back and kind of torn away once sort of a certain level of intimacy was really experienced or expressed between the both of you. And so again, in this period of kind of retreat and separation, this choice, this point of choice, to continue to keep your heart open and optimistic. Whatever had been kind of reached within you that had been sort of shining forth, brought forth by this dynamic, by this connection with this person, coming into the point of choice about closing your heart off again to love, closing your heart off again to this person, not really being sure where to kind of go from there, not really being sure where to move now in this direction. Kind of this fire of destruction that is then kind of giving rise to this phoenix energy, this rebirth energy, a very kind of sharp or sort of sudden experience with this person, and needing to kind of grapple with that, to recognize that, yes, on a level, what had been achieved is no longer. That has been torn asunder. That is gone. That that has passed. That is over. Where to go from now? Where to go from here individually in your life? Where to go with this person if they are to try and come back into your life? This person also with these same series of questions. What has been done? Maybe something that they did, and questioning, why did they do this? What was the motivation for this? This feels like something that is very triggered, that was very much a reaction. This doesn't feel like something that was sort of planned or nefarious in some way, but again, just some kind of a subconscious barrier was really breached. Some kind of an alarm bell went off within this person. Too close of a proximity to intimacy, too close of a proximity to kind of that tenderness, their heart, that core, that gem that they hold within themselves, that precious treasure that they sort of covet and they keep to themselves, and kind of just very benignly, what was building between the both of you, what was being exchanged between the both of you, and it coming in too close to that, and kind of this person maybe lashing out, baring their teeth and their claws to a certain extent, that really sort of, cut the cord on what had been achieved or was being experienced between the both of you. With this energy of lovers, it feels that, despite what those circumstances might have been, despite how, that momentum, was built in that moment was just kind of torn away very quickly, kind of leaving you both in the space of kind of that uncomfortable silence, or that kind of discomfort at what had just taken place, and kind of that sense of sort of awkwardness about what to do now, what just happened, being very unsure on both your parts, how you kind of got to that place. Some reflection that's going on about, trying to retrace the steps. Everything was going fine, and then all of a sudden, this was kind of brought up to the surface, and this was the reaction, and this is kind of the aftermath, and why did that happen? Despite all of that, with this image here on the lovers of these two people within this bubble, it feels that kind of whatever sort of within each other's ego was really wounded by this, whatever kind of wounds were brought up, this bond between the both of you at the soul level still exists. Whatever was kind of cut away from in that moment, it has not severed this bond. This is in fact the doorway to the recognition of the eternity of that bond, the perpetuity of that bond. This is almost an experience which really kind of demonstrates in a very subtle way this energy of unconditional love for one another, not allowing sort of distortions or kind of wounds that are projected, not just in the energy of saying, oh, that's okay, my feelings don't matter, whatever was displayed is fine, that's okay. It's not the energy of that. It's the energy of taking that step back, recognizing maybe other factors and circumstances that were going on within that person, that they might have just been feeling very sensitive, very overwhelmed at that point in time, very wounded, standing in that wounded stance, that wounded warrior stance. And, just kind of that dynamic between the both of you, that vibration of love. Their demons were already kicked up to such a notch, to such an extent, that this very, healing and soothing and enjoyable dynamic between the both of you, it just really having triggered those things. This is not the fault of either person, but it's just something, again, this opportunity to kind of step back and gain that perspective, kind of an introduction to the two of you on an ego level in a way that might have been sort of had not had the opportunity to be introduced to one another before. So in a way, the situation really providing kind of a deeper understanding of one another, really seeing and experiencing what triggers look like in one another, how the two of you respond when triggered or when wounded. That the kind of the purpose of that serving to, again, kind of connect one another with this deeper intimacy, kind of feeling your way through each other energetically to recognize these are your wounds, these are your, parameters, these are your barriers, these are, kind of the ways in which sort of dissonant circumstances in your life and in your reality, what that does for you at a vibrational level, what that brings up within you. And it's not the energy of, walking a razor's edge or on eggshells with somebody, but just being very cognizant of that, becoming very aware of one another's kind of emotional body, one another's feelings, and some things then that might need to be worked on within each other in terms of maybe being a little more mindful of that, the tendency toward reactiveness, being a little more mindful of that, the tendency to not perceive and honor when somebody is in that triggered state already, kind of moving out of that urge to want to heal or help somebody by, sort of keeping the vibration high, keeping the vibration, elevated, or seeking to kind of help to bring that person up out of that. But, it's sometimes kind of that love, that unconditional love is just sitting with somebody in their darkness, being that constancy of light as opposed to that urge to try and get them to sort of look at the sun when they're in kind of a midnight state. And so a very kind of educational experience with this person. very stark, very kind of sudden, and almost the sense of oops going along with this, that you both really recognize how, just kind of very unconsciously that, kind of shadows within yourselves individually have now interacted, have now really come out to play with one another. And then sort of what you are left then with, these feelings that you are left with then, and kind of this period in this situation of, an opportunity to kind of rebuild, an opportunity to really recognize what has been reflected to one another and within one another through this experience. This person, again, feeling very kind of not good about this, feeling very much this energy of kind of careless hands, somebody who really cherishes this energy, cherishes this connection, cherishes this dynamic, sees your light, recognizes your light, sees your light as a treasure within their life, feels very uplifted, very good in your presence. Your light feels very good for them. You bring out a side of this person that is refreshing, that is elevating. You do help to bring them up out of the darkness. You help them to really, concentrate and focus on, and to kind of embody and maintain that vibration of elevation. You're somebody which, kind of with this crown chakra energy on Shekinah here, you're somebody who, you do bring in a wisdom. You do know what to tell them. You do know what they need. You do know how to anticipate their needs. They're starting to see, that what has occurred, that you were coming from a very genuine place, a very loving place, a very caring place, not trying to, change this person, or to not honor the vibration that they were emitting, or to not honor whatever was going on, or kind of wherever they were hovering at vibrationally. But they're seeing this now as, just this is part of that light that they love about you. This is that nature that they love about you, this very healing vibration, this very loving vibration, that not out of a form of manipulation, but just as part of your nature, this soothing, this urge, this recognition of a wound within this person, and this kind of just innate part of you to soothe. They are recognizing and almost appreciating you in this connection as a very soothing force in their life. They may be really used to encountering people that just kind of play off that negativity or that misery within them. People who would, just kind of pick up on that vibration of negativity and seek to, or density or distress that they are in, and would just kind of take advantage of that, would seek to really just grind them down further into it, seek to push them further down into that lamentation, as opposed to, being that kind of, that healing, that light, that hope that, even though things might seem heavy and dark, that it will transcend, it will pass. Being just through your emanation, that perspective, that beacon, and how you move through the world, the energy that you embody, and how you kind of shine that out onto the world in general, onto people that you care about, onto this person specifically. And so it's something with this energy here of rebuilding. There is this desire to move on from this place, to move on from this state of where things have kind of been left in this connection. This has given this person a deeper appreciation for your value in their life, and starting to recognize as well, beyond words, just in how you approach and respond to their energy, how truly you value them. They are seeing you as somebody who is not just, kind of trying to fix and heal everybody, but something about the way that you come to them. It's from a very genuine place. It's from a very special place. It's something and a level that is very exclusive for them. It's almost like you, through your vibration, possess that medicine that they need. And this is somebody who may have just become accustomed to sort of living with that hurt, living with the kind of the reality that they're going to dip down into that. They're going to dip down into that shadow, into that kind of low energy, that hopeless energy, that crushing energy, and they just become so accustomed to just having to sit with that kind of depression, that sort of discontent. Those rocks piled high upon them, and they've learned to just kind of bear that weight. And they're recognizing, you and this energy as really, you have an ability to get through to them. Even without trying, you get through to them. You don't, you're not fed off of that negativity. It's not something which, is then kind of necessarily mirrored in you. It's not something which you're seeking to exacerbate. They're recognizing you're not a source of that. That what you bring to them, what your energy brings to them, it's the antithesis of what others bring to them, what life has brought to them so far. That this is that door of change. This is that opportunity to experience something different. This is that contrast to some of the kind of the disappointment or the ways in which others have responded to them, or the parts of them that have been brought out. Again, this kind of constancy that despite what might have happened, despite the wounding, despite how much that might have hurt, the walls that might have needed to go back up around your heart, or just kind of even respecting that distance, not kind of responding to that venom in those teeth and those claws with combativeness on your part, honoring and respecting that. Recognizing a boundary had been breached, a barrier had been crossed, and kind of, stepping back from that, giving that person their time, honoring that boundary, which again, something they may be very unaccustomed to in their life. Sort of, maybe used to people really responding to their fire with even more fire, kind of horn to horn. This idea of just, sort of when this part or this component or this face of this person is activated, that, it really has a tendency to then sort of trigger that same series of events within another person, kind of leading to this sort of clutter and this rattling and this chaos of a dynamic, this volatility. And instead, kind of what was presented, what stemmed from that. It's given this person a perspective of just how different this dynamic between the both of you is, how different you are from other people they have experienced in their life. It is starting to give this person perspective that that they have really changed on a certain level within themselves and within their life, and vibrationally, that they have even been able to magnetize in such a vibration as this, that is such contrast to how they have been dealing with others or vibrations they have experienced previously. So in this kind of distance and separation, this feels like somebody who, is thinking a lot about this, wanting to come forth and try and mend this in some way, wanting to come forth and kind of soothe this, to be gentle with you, to be very also with this bear energy to, it's making them feel very much like you are an energy and a presence in their life that they want to protect, they want to cherish. You are a jewel to them. You are a treasure to them. And if they, maybe hadn't been at the point of being able to fully appreciate and recognize that before, they are definitely at that point of recognizing this now, just in the contrast, and kind of that feeling of oops, that feeling of that awkwardness at what just happened, what just came out, why did this just occur, and sort of the way in which you responded to that, again, not feeding into that. Not feeding into this energy of kind of aggression or agitation or being on edge, but really, again, honoring that and kind of moving, stepping aside, moving aside, giving this person their space, kind of licking your own wounds privately without really inflicting that upon this person or flinging that back upon them. And that, this whole act, this whole situation, really, again, providing that clarity for them and for the both of you, about kind of how meaningful this connection is. This also may be providing perspective for you in terms of what was elicited within you as well. An opportunity to really honor yourself, to honor the energy that you provide, to really honor that healing and that giving and loving energy that this person is able to elicit from you. This might be something where, as much as there were hurt feelings, it's kind of moving into that perspective of compassion and perspective for, again, other things, other wounds within this person that might have been heightened or activated at that point in time. And again, just kind of highlighting this purity and this kind of this unconditional love between the two of you at a soul level, to, again, honor your own need for healing, honor your own need to kind of take some space, take some room from this, recognizing and reassuring yourself that, again, it was nothing that you did wrong. You were embodying your truth. You were, living from your heart. You were, expressing that vibration of truth and of clarity, and also recognizing, that everybody has wounds within them that need to be tended. Any wounds within yourself that have really creeped up from this. Taking that time to really address these things, to heal these things within you, to recognize maybe any kind of tendencies to want to fix or to want to heal or help another person. Allowing people to, again, just kind of sometimes sit in that heaviness, recognizing not to try and temper yourself down or to kind of dull yourself down or dilute yourself down, but, maybe recognizing that when someone is emanating or exuding an energy of being triggered, that perhaps it's good to just kind of give them that space to process that, to work through that, to sift through that on their own, without trying to necessarily be there and to be that comfort for them, sort of sitting with them in the dark while they are sort of working through these things on their own, but maybe it just from kind of a more of a wider perspective, as opposed to wanting to come in and sort of comfort and heal. This person, again, does feel like they want to move beyond this, to kind of build beyond this. Whatever has kind of been kicked up for them or has been shown to them, what sort of perspective for them at this point of choice, how to move forward, what to say, how to kind of learn from this experience, learn some things about themselves that has been really activated or triggered in this situation, things that they have really learned about you in terms of how you respond, in terms of, being very cognizant of the vibrational connection between the both of you, what they have been able to really sense and pick up on through this dynamic, through how you've processed it and wherever you are at in your vibration right now, how you maybe are kind of shifting your focus onto other things, or even how you are processing kind of that emotion and that hurt, and how that is translated to them, how that is transferred to them, to again give them that place of compassion and perspective about maybe some wounds within you that kind of harsh vibration might have activated, wounds from kind of difficult relationships of the past, dynamics that you grew up in, where that vibration was very much kind of brought out this wounding or this sort of shutting down within you. So kind of an educational experience between the both of you, something that they are really focusing on and wanting to kind of work through with this Nine of Wands, the wounds within the both of you, coming into this place of compassion for themselves, coming into this place of compassion for you, and wanting to use this opportunity to not kind of close the book between the both of you, but that this is a very important chapter. This is a very important experience within one another, and with one another, in order to kind of get to know each other on sort of an energetic level that isn't necessarily able to be tapped into or experienced fully through discussion. It's something that, through experience, through sensing that, through experiencing that vibration, kind of that vibrational interaction, the dissonance that has occurred and kind of what both people are doing about that, it has given this perspective. It is changed and shifted things. So somebody who's, again, very, very focused on where do we go from here. somebody who is not content to just kind of leave things in this energy, but is trying to really dig and search within themselves about, how can we step back into the light in this situation? What's to be learned from this kind of dark experience with us? What shadows is this illuminated within us and between us? And kind of how do we work back to that? So somebody who's, introspecting a lot, they're feeling a lot about this, they're processing this. And again, it's really illuminating kind of that constancy of both of you allowing each other that time and space to process this internally, and to kind of grow from this, learn from this, and understand yourselves and each other deeper from this, which can be very uncharacteristic from what they have experienced previously, and is kind of bringing more of the focus onto how unique and rare and precious this dynamic is, this connection is, that they feel seen and honored and respected in a way, shadows and light in a way that is very uncustomary for what they are used to encountering in others in their life. So I'm going to get some messages from this person's higher self for you now, group 3, and see what do they want to say. Okay, and they say your touch is electric. So again, that kind of idea of things really having been triggered within one another, and this wider perspective of one another that has been gained. This person is seeing how also the light that you bring into their life, the light that is created through the two of you interacting with one another. It's something that they are really valuing. It's something that they are really seeing as very exceptional, very uplifting, very unique. It's something which, you bring life to them in a way that is different from the way other connections might have brought life to them. Other connections might have made them feel very alive and that kind of that adrenaline, that rush of conflict. This is life in the sense of that space of respect, that space of honoring, that space of validation that says you are okay. All your faces are. This is acceptable. This is something that I am willing to accept while you work on these things. Just as I am willing to accept these things about myself and to work on ways that I can be more sort of responsive to you, rather than kind of working out of a space of trying to fix or heal or remedy. Sometimes just holding the space while one does that for themselves is the best way to demonstrate and embody love. And so again, really turning this person on to a different variety of love, somebody who may not have been used to being honored, somebody who may have been accustomed to when they show their teeth, when they display that venom, when they react, then it creates kind of this total disconnect, or again is really kind of this energy of meeting fire with fire. It just sort of sparks a conflict. So whatever has occurred, however this has really played out, whatever space you are giving this person within themselves, whatever space you are gifting yourself to process this and heal through this, it's something they are really recognizing and admiring as, you're demonstrating to them, you're kind of showing the way to a different experience of love. And they also say, I can't stop thinking about you, it's maddening. So this is heavily on their mind, what has occurred between the both of you. Kind of the way in which they are seeing your very unique vibration and what you bring to their life in a new capacity. It's something where, they're really wanting to work through this, work through whatever has happened, to kind of understand this connection more, to experience this connection more. This might also be so uncharacteristic for this person, kind of this love or this sense of giving. This person might be used to being the giver, and they have not encountered another giver. And it's almost like what they were needing And then it really, just kind of shook them. It struck them by surprise. It was something where, they weren't used to that. They were used to, people playing on that vulnerability, people playing on that kind of irritation or that heightened vibration, people who just take from them or contribute to that or break that down. And so again, a giver meeting another giver and the potential that exists there, but how out of the ordinary that is. So a lot of thought about this, the ramifications of this. What does this mean? Where can we go from here? How to get back or to rebuild or to rebirth from what has taken place. And they also say, I'm not quite ready to give you what you deserve. So they are very cognizant that there are some wounds, some shadows that have been kicked up within them, some things that they are not happy about with how they have shown up in this situation, or kind of what unfolded between the both of you, that they are feeling they need to really work through. They need to figure this out. They need to puzzle this out. They need to create a plan forward, needing to work on some more compassion for themselves as well, not being hard on themselves, but understanding that, kind of that fade, that sort of coming to balance between reaction and response, that it's something which is always kind of a work in progress. It's something where we can put in a lot of work toward ourselves, toward really kind of balancing these things within ourselves, seeking to kind of temper ourselves down in certain ways. But it's something, it's a razor's edge. It's a very tenuous kind of hold. And this person may have been putting a lot of pressure on themselves to, again, temper themselves in certain ways. And so kind of stepping out of character for that, they might really be being harsh on themselves at this point in time, that, they kind of have eroded something that has been built or birthed within this creation, that in some way they have really had like a major backslide in their life, a part of themselves that they seek to keep very caged in, very hidden away, that they have let that out, they have unleashed that, and it's something where, they're trying to really reconcile with that, put that back in its cage, and yet at the same time feeling very compelled to sort of fix that or to heal that, put that somewhere else from where it had been just kind of seething and waiting within them. And they also say it was easier to disappear than face my shadow. So this is kind of that energy of that awkward silence, almost what was sort of said or what was done, and kind of the energetic jolt that occurred when that moment took place, and the two of you really were just kind of like, what just happened? And this person really, feeling the need to just kind of retreat, to not really face that, or to, part of that retreat is the facing of it. This has really just kind of come forth, or even that point of reaction was some kind of a shadow that was really coming up within them, that the light you were emitting was kind of triggering that demon within them, and instead of allowing themselves to just kind of lean into that, allow that to be soothed, allow that to be loved, to be seen, to be honored, allowing you to sit very closely with them while they were kind of working through and kind of feeling their way through that darkness within themselves. Instead of doing that, they may have chosen to really just lash out, sort of push this away, sever that, kind of cut that moment off between the both of you. And in this mechanism of just almost to create that distance, almost to create that sense of wound, that sting between the both of you, so that, they could just kind of sit in whatever vibration they were holding, without really kind of facing that, without really trying to see and recognize what that is, what that was. But there's a sense here of now, after the dust has settled, after kind of some of that is worn off, or whatever was kind of going on has kind of subsided a little. They've gained some perspective. There is this feeling here of kind of having taken the easy way out, and being maybe a little bit harsh on themselves for that. Some determination to try and do something better, to try and correct this, to try and come back from this. And they also say, I miss your scent, your love, and your energy. So they're really craving that closeness. Again, this idea of really starting to cherish you in a deeper way, or focusing more on that, on how kind of good the dynamic between the both of you is, and how that feels compared to what they've experienced in other kind of avenues in their life, other relationships or areas or interactions. There's a sense of longing, a sense of kind of wanting to come back into that exchange between the both of you. So, you know, if you're not hearing from this person at all, and it's just kind of silent, it feels like it's gone kind of still, that there's a lot going on within them, within kind of the mental space, within the soul. They're really thinking a lot about this, reflecting a lot about this, reminiscing a lot about this, and perhaps even being very, you know, kind of sitting in that shadow at this point in time, kind of being very hard on themselves about this, feeling that they kind of messed something up, or maybe that, you know, this energy of regret and kind of complacency, not really sure if there's any way to kind of come back from this, to rebuild from this, and kind of that energy of needing to sort of sit in that kind of that wallowing, that process of humbling, in order to really be able to summon and find the courage within themselves to at least take some kind of a step, take some kind of a chance, to trust in that bond that exists between the both of you at the soul level, and come forth from a place of honesty and integrity and love, in order to kind of bring that unconditional bond out into what you then rebuild or experience from this point forward with each other. And they also say, I'm untangling myself from financial and personal issues. So this can really tie into maybe some other factors that have been going on with them that has caused them to, you know, be a little bit kind of resistant or kind of on edge. Some things that have really been creating dissonance or a sense of pressure within their vibration, where they've been trying very hard not to get irritated, trying very hard to just kind of go with the flow of things. Kind of this sense also with the Five of Wands, and just these things coming in from all angles, and this person really just, you know, trying to keep that grip, trying to walk that razor's edge. And that, you know, just something at that particular moment, that particular kind of confluence of all these different factors all at once, and it was just so much pressure, and you know, and kind of so much pressure that to the point of leaning further into love, or just, you know, kind of the timing that very kind of intimate sort of precipice presented itself. There was a sense of having made the choice to, you know, just hold further on to that razor's edge, to not, you know, trust that, you know, to fall into this, to fall into that loving vibration at that point in time, that it, you know, could be that source of support to get through. This can also provide some perspective for you in terms of, again, things that when they're saying they're not quite ready to give you what you deserve, just a lot of other things that need to kind of be wrapped up or come to an end in their life before they are able to really respond in kind, to keep tandem with you as you get into these deep kind of emotional layers. There's so much love here, and it's something that they very much feel. They feel this bond, they feel this unconditional love between the both of you, but there's these other factors that are occurring for them, outside of themselves, within themselves, and they're trying to really untangle that, and so, you know, wanting you to, you know, again, kind of this understanding that you didn't do anything wrong. You were just kind of shining in your purity and who you are, and it's something that they, you know, they're very drawn to, they're very magnetized to, they appreciate that, they value that. You have value in their life. The interactions between one another has value in their life, and it's something which it's such a contrast to all of these kind of pressures, these financial pressures, these personal pressures, these, you know, internal pressures. It's almost like this situation or this connection is that kind of sanctuary. It is this oasis, as the world turns, and then there's the two of you, and so it's something which, You know, they're kind of in this place now of needing to kind of loosen some knots or tie up some loose ends in order to be able to come back to you in an energy that is more protective, in an energy that is able to be kind of more tender and less sort of distracted and kind of pulled in all these different directions. There's a sense here of this as well, that, you know, what has been shown and expressed to you in a very kind of positive and loving way is just a fraction of the love they have for you inside. And this feels like somebody who really wants to step into that, really wants to kind of open up to that and to allow that to flow, to allow the two of you to kind of birth this connection into something that is a different kind of experience of fire, that is kind of a warmth of fire, the creation of fire, you know, that fire of love, as opposed to, you know, a lot of forces within their life that might be quite destructive, or experiences of love and dynamics of the past that really, you know, kind of took things away from them. And so again, just kind of needing some time to wrap up some of these things, to figure out some of these things, and kind of this indication of, again, a lot going on behind the scenes that may have really kind of brought out a side of this person that they're not so proud of. And they also say, I run hot and cold because I'm scared of being hurt. So in addition to all of this pressure, this definitely feels like somebody who has a lot of heartbreak under their belt, and somebody who, you know, again, has a lot of love for you, feels very drawn to you, feels very compelled toward this connection. But at the same time, it feels like they're almost in a balancing act in a lot of ways in their life. And that with all those pressures, maybe just the nature of their life, the things that they have going on in their life that they must juggle at all times or to some, you know, varying degree, there's this concept, this idea of to open themselves up fully as this connection is inviting them to do, and the potential of hurt, the potential of losing that, of touching that beauty and that gem and that treasure, only to have that kind of wash away or be taken away or move away from them at some point in time. It almost feels like it's more than they can handle. They don't know how they could sustain the already tenuous kind of balance that they have with all these other things that go on in their life and go on within them. This energy of kind of conflicts, these internal battles, you know, this kind of this defensiveness, maybe even kind of an energy of depression within themselves that they feel almost very just kind of like the world is very combative to them, that these kind of belief systems about themselves, these wounds within themselves, they're constantly combating these things, trying not to touch on those things, trying to just keep them in a space where they have convinced themselves that it doesn't hurt, just kind of gripping tight through that kind of agony within themselves. And it's something where they're recognizing this element of healing, this element of otherness that this connection can offer them, but at the same time, to loosen that grip on sort of that discomfort that they have been so used to. It's something which really scares them because it's on the other side of however they have created a sense of normal for themselves up to this point in time. And so it's something where, this energy of hot and cold, they want this, they lean into this, but at the same time, they don't really trust what's on the other side of kind of allowing that fire of love, that holy fire to, completely eviscerate all ideas and concepts of love that they have had before, all those experiences. This is somebody who wants to rise in love, that idea of phoenix out of the ashes, but at the same time, they have some trepidation about, if those concepts or even other things that need to kind of be untangled or fall away from their life, if they do that, if they make that move, if they, let these things go, they're having a little bit of trouble trusting that, something really beautiful between the two of you can and will rise out of that. They have this inclination, they have this knowing, they have this, this feeling, this connectedness that this is different than what they've experienced in the past. That beautiful things have come out of this in the point in time that you two have interacted with one another. And even in this period of separation, there's beauty that is coming out from this. There's a difference between this and what they've experienced previously, but this is somebody who's still just, they're kind of right on that edge, kind of just this energy of choice, just kind of circling around, all these examples of what could go wrong, but then also, being drawn back to what can go so beautifully right in the situation. So I'm going to get a romance angel for you now, group 3. Some guidance about the situation. And we have keep an open mind. Your soulmate may differ from your usual type and expectations. So this really confirms that idea of the otherness of this connection, kind of a new type or vibration of love than they have experienced previously. And just the way that this opens them up, this helps them touch upon what they may have just kind of dismissed as a mythology of unconditional love or true love. Love that, sees and honors and accepts, doesn't try to change, but, recognizes, holds that space for one to make the change on their own, holds that space of really valuing, and then being able to provide value in return. And it's something that this person is, again, really needing to kind of grapple with this, ways in which they, have really been kind of illuminated to a next sort of level of love in this situation, a level of love within themselves, kind of what they are really being compelled or thinking about doing in this situation. And so really this guidance to keep an open mind about, whatever has occurred, whatever is happening right now, this hot and cold energy, keep an open mind that this person is reflecting upon this. They're taking steps, maybe even just internally in their life, maybe even with some other things, financially or personally, to try and kind of tie up these loose ends, kind of this stage of preparation, sort of fighting off this fear within them, keeping this energy of trust and hope and faith that love will win in this situation. That the two of you are in this place of, recognizing and acknowledging fears, fears within yourself, fearful behavior, kind of some fears of worst case scenarios, or, of kind of repeating past cycles of loss and love, and moving into this space of open-mindedness, that, you both are worthy and deserving and have prepared yourself to the point that, you have encountered one another for a reason, keeping an open mind that, this connection can be that jewel of love that you may have always imagined but never were able to find. Keeping this open mind that what has happened with heartbreaks of the past, these are not cycles that need to repeat themselves. People you have dealt with in the past, this is not the archetype that is showing up in this connection through this individual. And that goes in a very vice versa kind of way. Any sort of fears that you have, anything that has been triggered within you, to really move into that space of open-mindedness, that whatever, this kind of situation or circumstance was, this is not who this person truly is. Leaning into that space of connecting with this person at the soul level, to recognize that, to see that, to focus on that, continuing to move forward and work on yourself, and just keeping that open mind, that the power of love can do miraculous things, and that the two of you have touched on something very unique and very rare, and trusting that this will help the two of you to kind of empower yourselves and move through these fears and these difficulties, to untangle these knots within yourself and within your life, so that you are able to really meet each other with this kind of freshness, this openness, to really step forth into that experience of sort of a new and more intimate and more kind of elevated version of love than you had experienced previously. So I'm going to get some initials for you now. Group 3, this can be first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. I've got T, B, E, L, O, J, Y, A, N, Q, C, and P. So those are your messages, group 3. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the video. If you like the reading, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I also sell handmade jewelry in my Etsy shop if you're interested in checking those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.